Hello, everybody, and welcome to our weekly live drop-in meditation session. This is Ted Meissner. I am so glad you could be here today, and good to have you back with the community. Oh, welcome. Those of you just arriving, you're just in time. We are just getting started, and I'm so glad you could be here today. It's always a wonderful thing, I think, for each of us to have this connection and this ability to spend some time not just in practice, but in having conversations. Now, as we know, each week we spend a few minutes before we start the recording just saying hi and greeting each other. And in the beginning of each session, a few minutes of a topic pertaining to our mindfulness practice. I try to make those very timely with what's going on in our world. And then a lightly guided practice. And that lightly guided practice will go until about 25 after. We'll stop the recording at that point, and those of us who are here will stick around for up to half an hour of a discussion of whatever came up in the practice or whatever you'd like to talk about or ask about. So with that, I want to start. Our topic for this week is one I'm not sure. Those of you who are here, maybe you can let me know if this is a phrase or a term you've heard of before. It's one I just heard of this morning. My brilliant wife, who is much more connected to cultural stuff than I am, introduced me to the phrase bean soup commenters. So I'm seeing by expressions that it was new. So let me describe what that is. And for those of you who may be watching this as a recording later, you're like, oh yeah, that. So let me describe what this is about. It's apparently a new thing that is occurring in our age of things like TikTok and YouTube and all of that, where people are posting instructional videos. And this came out of instructional videos around how to make bean soup. And of course, our instructions are using beans of different kinds to make that. And what's been apparently a trend in this and in others, not just bean soup videos, it's other stuff as well, is for people to comment, well, but you need to provide a recipe that's not just beans. And of course, it's bean soup. That's fundamental to it. Now, we're not just talking about medical reasons. I'm allergic to beans, I can't have that. Completely understandable. But that means don't go to a recipe on bean soup. It means that's something that may not be appropriate for us. So this has become something where there are just lots and lots of commenters about make this about my specific and unique needs. And it's really supporting the story of it's all about me and only me. And that's kind of what this trend is of making whatever it is that's coming up in circumstances and turning them maybe inappropriately towards ourselves. And that shows up in the way thoughts appear in our minds as well. And that's the mindfulness part of this, is one of those moments where we're being a bean soup commenter on our own thoughts. And this has to do with, and why I want to bring it up today, is not just the inner critic bringing things into our lives, but in our own practice, when there may be a recipe or, say, a meditation for something that is not the best fit for us. So as an example, for many people, having awareness of breath is a perfectly valid and fulfilling anchor for present moment experience. It's something that's comfortable, there's a little bit of sensation and movement to connect with, and it's not for everyone. It's not always helpful. For some, it can be quite dysregulating. So instead of having to stick with something that's not appropriate for you, eating bean soup when you're allergic to beans, for example, or insisting that, if we just change this particular practice to suit my needs so I can do this specific practice, I can eat bean soup when bean soup is not the right thing for me. What are those moments in your life where you may be holding on to a practice that is one that you're supposed to do, or the recipe says, do it this way, instead of maybe doing a different practice or finding an adaptation for yourself to do something that is more meaningful and helpful to you instead of having that strong attachment to, well, we need to adapt this practice to me when it's not appropriate for you. It's okay to choose something else, to have something other than bean soup. So, this is also another aspect to it with our mindfulness is the tendency for the human mind to get into a habit, maybe a pattern around the story, the narrative, instead of the experience. Taken with some perspective, the idea of, well, I don't really like beans or I'm allergic to beans. Like, well, then pretty self-explanatory. The bean soup may not be the right thing for you to eat. Choose something else. That's okay. Being okay with make different choices that are right for you. All right, we can talk more about that after the recording ends, but I wanted to introduce that really interesting phrase I hadn't encountered before. It's bean soup commenters. And what are the bean soup commenters within our own mind and on our own practices? Are there things we can let go of that are not appropriate for us and not helpful? All right, well, with that, let's begin our practice for today. Let's take our meditation seats as we do each week. If there's some adjustment to how the body is held that would support wakefulness, that would support your caring presence in this moment, then making that adjustment. And that may mean moving a little bit, rolling the shoulders, a little gentle stretch of the neck, sitting up tall and upright, maybe inviting a sense of calm dignity to the posture in this moment. So taking a few moments and just allowing yourself to feel into this body in this moment and allowing yourself to arrive in this body, arrive in this moment, arriving with an invited intention to show up with care. Just that. Inviting yourself to arrive and show up with care. And as we do each week, arriving and checking in. This checking in is gentle. It's not an inquisition, not anything tense or intense. This check-in is just a gentle peek into what's here right now. That may be sensations that you feel with a sense of touch. Maybe noticing sounds in your environment or thoughts coming and going. And perhaps a little glance at the mood and emotions that may be here as well. Not having to nail those down as one thing. Also inviting a little spaciousness for their movement as well. Body movement, mental movement. Noticing the shift of mood. That's all part of checking in. Just a little glance at what's here right now. Take a few moments in silence and just notice what's here. Body, heart, mind. What is making itself known to you in this moment? And just being with that, not having to change it. And then getting reacquainted with your home base. Now, your home base might not be bean soup. Might be something else. Might not be The breath is an anchor. It may be your feet on the floor, tips of your fingers, or sounds in your environment. Home base is what welcomes you back to this moment when attention wanders, as it does. So for you, whether your anchor for attention in this moment is a choice of bean soup or something else, breath or something else, take your time. Get reacquainted with this friendly companion experience. It's always here for you. And when you notice attention has moved, that's an expected part of the practice. The practice isn't having a mind that doesn't move. Practice is noticing when it does, acknowledging that movement, and choosing your response of adjusting your practice or landing back once more into this moment. Maybe another choice, maybe that stiffness is a bit too distracting. Roll your shoulders mindfully. Come back to stillness then. Perhaps also noticing if there are any habits around controlling your home base, controlling the length of the breath instead of letting it happen on its own and being with that. Striving to focus on one sound and not others. And as best you can, giving yourself the gift of being with your home base without having to change it or control it or make it right. Just allowing home base to be here. And expanding your awareness just a bit to include noticing how you are responding to your home base. Experiencing deeply your home base. How does that shift? How does that shift body and heart and mind? if it does at all. What's that like? Little playful curiosity. How am I doing with home base? What's that like? And shifting a little bit once more to soft reflection. What are there some moments when thoughts become critical bean soup comments about something I may be holding on to that could be let go of? And establishing a gentle intention to still be mindfully present, aware with your caring self. When the formal meditation practice time ends, but your mindful presence doesn't, notice what it's like to sustain being here with care. So when you're ready, opening your eyes if you've had them closed, still being mindfully present, aware, and tuning into the body's needs to move in a way that might be comfortable or refreshing for you after a bit of stillness. What is that? Can you do that move with intention and attention and some delicacy? Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We are going to stop the recording at this point. And just as a reminder for those who are watching this as a recording later, this group does then continue on for up to half an hour and have open discussion about things we're running into in our practice. So that's available if you join the community, and I hope you do. Otherwise, see you again next week. Thank you very much for tuning in.